inspire me to murder.
Hello, friends. Not it. Welcome back to another evening of D&D. We are NotGreatRPG, and we are here for the City of Oshuamp once again. We're going to be using a different music platform this evening, so excuse if the music is too quiet. I'm going to check the VOD afterwards. If it's too loud, certainly let me know, but if it's too quiet, just bear with us, and I will figure all of that stuff out after stream. But we're here again for another fun evening. We're going to be diving into some very exciting things tonight. So real quick, we're going to go around the table, introduce ourselves, and then we will have a brief recap and then pop into the fun. Always, I'm Don, and in this one I play Ether, the Grave Domain Cleric.
I'm not Lawrence, and I play Lumlo.
I'm Paul, and I play Felix.
I'm Glenn. I play the Wolfman, formerly known as Worst. Like formal.
Formally.
Formal. Yeah, I thought he said formerly. What does that mean?
I'm Sarah, and I play Ritora.
And I'm DJ. I play Nesgrim. Oh, yeah, right. Sorry, I'm Nesgrim. I play DJ. Right.
And I'm John, and I'm the Dungeon Master for Oshuamp. Last week we had a wonderful experience at the Mouth of Madness, aka Ritora, with her new beautiful wild-shaped shape as a death dog with 2 heads and horrible shadow enveloping her and a very noxious breath weapon. That combat was a blast. Sarah DM'd it. Go check it out. We eventually were able to knock Sarah out, or Ritora. I always do it. Specifically with you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's for some reason. I just see you. Inside of this death dog, everyone just sadly hitting you, and it's like, oh, I feel really bad for doing this to her, but it makes for a great story. Oh.
Hit her again.
It's funny because I'm like 100% on board the whole time.
Right?
Ritora, no.
Yeah.
Sarah,
yes. Maybe that's why I don't feel bad when I mess up. It's fine. Yeah, we eventually knocked the shit out of Ritora, and she concludes the wild shape because she is no longer possessed. She's unconscious. She sleeps for an hour. We drag her back. Ether finishes making his fish stew. Ritora wakes up. She says she's sorry. She didn't mean to do that. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Weird how that continues to come up. She just wanted to cast Detect Magic to protect her friends, and it's almost like opening a ritual to my beautiful ally within her is gonna result in a bad time sometimes. Yeah, so we hung out, we started to eat, everybody relaxed, everybody forgave and stood by Ritora, understanding that it is not remotely actually her fault. She is indeed possessed by a horrifying creature. Melithel returned, visibly fucked up. He had a mouse on his shoulder. Definitely still his wife. It's genuinely his wife. He doesn't realize that. He's fucked up. Yeah, he laughs. We offer him some of our stew. He throws the bones at the tent. I don't know why. He just does, because he's a weird man. He's off put by bones. Maybe he's seen some things. He packs his pipe. We start to get railed with this dude. Just having a good time with Melithel. He shows us his star form, where he manifests a ethereal, almost incorporeal-like appearance with constellations, clouds, and a moon. Wonderfully placed.
On the front.
Listen, you asked where it was. Somebody asked.
I didn't. Whoa.
I forget who asked. Lawrence asked where the moon was, and we saw that moon. Beautiful, shining, full moon.
The front moon.
Front moon. Oh.
The old front moon.
The old front moon. Yeah, he showed his star map to Ritora, which is a series of braille-like indentations and raised elevations in the tanned flesh of a snowy owlbear. She tried to read it, can't read it because it's constellations, it's not like it's forming words. None of our people are associated really with astrological symbols. And yeah, he tells them some of the information about the herbs that he utilizes for the beautiful dreamlike visions that he and his wife have when they smoke from their pipes. Everybody is surprisingly on board with getting totally fucked up with Melithel because he's just a fun man. He's here for a good time. Yeah, everybody takes some drags and we start getting a little weird and things continue to get weird. And then Melithel recognizes that something's fucking wrong with Ritora herself, says that he can see some kind of devil or something in her and that it's probably not great. We talked about what it might be. He doesn't know what it actually is. He just says it's bad, because That's how old Stoner Man is gonna talk to you.
That's real bad.
Yeah,
Man, get that check.
that shit's bad or something. I don't fucking know, man.
You all right, fishy?
Yeah.
Sounds like Southern Tommy Chong.
Yep, that's what I was going for, actually. Yeah, Felix talks into his mind again, tries to stare him because Felix is super fucking out of it. Says boo, Malithel's confused, and then he goes, why the fuck do you have some weird lady yelling at you in your mind? It's a great time. We're gonna pick up here with most of our people drifting off to beautiful slumber. Nesgrim fighting Wembley in his dreams. A giant fish spider. Wembley with so many magical fingers and hands.
Oh, Wembley.
It's so disturbing.
Oh, Wembley. Oh, Fish Wembley.
Fish Wembley. Yeah, so I mean, Malithel looks at you and goes, why you got a weird lady in your hand?
Just gonna widen my eyes and stare at him.
Sounds real mad. You do something bad? Uh-oh. That's not good. Why'd you say boo?
Boo. To scare you.
I'm real scared of you. Not because of the boo. A lady. I ain't heard a lady inside a man's head. That shit's weird.
I'm gonna try to bring. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna attempt to focus.
Yeah, no, not remotely. It feels like your powers have suspiciously been drained from your body.
Oh no! Oh, you're saying I can't switch my focus? Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, those herbs.
I was gonna try to focus on him, but sure, if I can't now. So I'll try to form the sentence. What'd she say?
Stop it, Felix. I don't know, man. It's fucking weird. She's so mad.
Just kind of look at him worried. As worried as somebody that's big out of their mind can be.
That's pretty worried.
I guess this is gonna turn bad.
So fucking paranoid.
Yeah, it's paranoia now.
You should probably just sleep it off or something. Go to bed.
I'm gonna. It was adaptive body, so I can still sleep in it. So that's fine.
I'm going to bed too.
I'm real worried.
Come here, fishy. What do you mean? Never held a wet man at night. Not at night.
I was gonna kind of back away as far as I can.
He just starts really awkwardly on all fours, just crawling towards you. Fishy.
Who's next to me?
Fishy.
Who's next to me?
Well, I mean,
I think they fell asleep
yeah,
in the same.
they're-
We're kind of set up like this, and I think he was
it's
in the
mostly
middle.
a circle, so I'd say
Yeah.
probably Vorst and Ether. Which
Well,
Ether's fucking out
I'm
of it.
gonna kind of try to move Ether in his path, just slowly
You
drive
can
him.
make a strength check with disadvantage. Come on, man, help me.
Diggle. Diggle.
So that's gonna be 7 minus 2.
I also have a 7 minus 2.
Do I just kind of move him in the way slowly?
Like, you just see, Ether's body just, lightly topple and, his leg just flays out. And this dude just, feels the leg as he puts his hand out. Oh, shit, a leg! Oh. Bone Man. Alright, that works. And he just, curls up and puts his head weirdly on your thigh right above your knee. That's nice. This Bone Man's warm. You just hear him begin to loudly start, oh, shit.
Bone Wembley.
Oh, don't bone Wembley. The subconscious is speaking out.
My hubris.
I'm not gonna make the joke. Okay, so he's starting to go to sleep.
Yeah, he's starting to go to sleep. You just see him, waving his arm. Cuddle. Got a dream.
Diggle.
I'm just gonna look over to Vorst.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna.
Yeah, just
lean
nod back
back
in your
just-
spot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is asleep now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna peek out the tent and see if his wife is still sitting out there.
Yeah, you can see that there's just a small mouse. You open the tent and just in the snow, kind of like building a little mouse domain. It looks like she's building a small, instead of a sand castle, a little snow castle.
That's adorable.
Right?
I love that
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna
lot.
take a deep breath of the cold air and then go back in and
Mm-hmm.
guess just kind of prop myself up to fall asleep on myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How big is this tent?
Definitely not large enough for this, but it is right now. Because everybody's
We're,
in
like,
a big
on
old
top
puddle.
of
Oh,
each
yeah, no,
other.
absolutely. There is, like, inches of space between you guys, if there's any space at all. That's why the dude's fucking sleeping on Ether. He's just on his legs,
This is so cute.
right?
I love it.
Just incredibly... It's great.
Kind of wish that guy wasn't like also in the pile, but you know,
He's
it
fine.
is what it is.
He's the man for this job. Were you gonna ask something, DJ?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, I'm good.
Cool. Yeah. So let's crack in. Everybody starts drifting off to sleepy, sleepy, sleepy town, and there is this weird sense of a calming sensation. So, I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever been anesthetized and awoken from it quite early and have that, like, almost pseudo body paralysis, so sleep paralysis. You got that. You have this strange sensation where it feels like your eyes are open and you're cognizant of your surroundings, but nothing in your body moves. Like, you think for a moment to try to move your hand, or maybe your foot, but you don't need to. Why would you move? Moving's overrated right now. You're just kind of in this blissful, peaceful state. Very numb to your world, numb to the feelings of your body. Kind of almost like everything washes away if you were floating away at like the height of water. Kind of, again, like if you were in a very heavy induced salt bath. Just one of those sensory deprivation tanks. Just
They're so pleasant.
No.
just relaxing. Just go on. Quiet. And then in the distance, for some reason, you hear this soft, all of you, chirping, like echoing, as though in a forest. You hear the rustling of leaves as wind sways through branches, that peaceful autumnal air, just kind of soft and serene. And you see, in the distance, as your vision comes kind of into focus, you see the heights of these beautiful tall green trees. Oaks and maples. Woods very similar to your home, Ritora. Very peaceful and comforting. You hear these birds chirp. You hear the similar sounds of woodland creatures as they hop through the brush. The rustling of those bushes, the ferns at the base of the tree trunks. You hear things step on branches and twigs begin to crack and break lightly. You hear the hooting of an owl in the distance. And you see this owl start to come into focus. This beautiful snowy white owl, as it flutters gracefully down. Looks like it's twilight. Not very dark, but there's very little light that kind of peeks through these tree trunks, through this canopy. And you see this owl descend down, and a familiar man outstretch his hand. A tall elven man with beautiful blonde hair. Delwyn. As he welcomes this owl and it lands gracefully in his palm. And he just looks at it, and you see him pull something from the side of his pocket, a small seed, placed into his palm. And Juniper leans down and gracefully takes this seed and begins to chomp at it. You see it crack and break. You hear these noises. As Juniper continues to eat and crunch away at this small seed, you see Delwyn's hand slide down to the side of her foot and pull a scroll attached right at her foot, undoing the small bit of twine, taking it. He props Juniper up to his shoulder, and you see that there is just a small, slightly larger than a post-it note size piece of scroll in his hands. And you see this man standing in these woods, lightly illuminated by the bits of light that do break through this canopy in twilight. And he reads, and he pauses for a moment. And he slowly furls the scroll back up and looks up at the line of the trees above him, kind of somberly. And he crumples the note in his hand, and he places it into a sack on his pouch, or a pouch on his belt. You can see that he pauses for a moment, and you all hear the similar voice of Ritora call out to him, "Master Delawin!" And you see this figure of Ritora in her autumnal grace, with flattering orange and red colors, highlights of yellow once more, come running through the trees, almost skipping gracefully, happily, towards this man. She pauses next to him, and he outstretches his hand and places it on her shoulder, not pulling her close, just resting it. You all see this young pair of elves stand here peacefully for a moment, and he just beckons out at the soil around. We've done it again. This place is safe now. We're doing well. Thank you for all of your help. I am so very proud of you. It has only been with your good graces and efforts that this miracle has occurred. And you see Ritora just kind of, not bashfully, but shyly, sheepishly look up at this man who she so clearly admires. Tomorrow we will have another attempt. There is another place nearby. I shall see you then. And suddenly this strange crackling, almost like the embers of smoke, kind of pop in front of your eyes, and you see these little bits of ashy flare, like when you ash a cigarette and you see those embers like paper begin to burst through the center of your vision, and this disappears from your sight. And then you see Delawin standing in front of a small hut, a hut that looks quite like home, holding this crumpled paper in his hand, and he loudly taps on the front door of your childhood home. And you all see the door open, and Delawin step inside, disappearing into the dark. Our vision stays here on the precipice of this hut, not within. You hear the raised voices of Delawin, the raised voice of Delawin. A bitterness that you're not familiar with to his tone. This kind of frustration that despite all the years of your work with him, you have not heard from this peaceful, serene man. How could you let her go? And you see Delawin storm out of this hut, slamming the door behind him. And this man pauses for a moment, looking down at the ground at his feet. Undeserving of such a wonderful child. I will not let her go to waste. And you see Delawin swipe back at his cloak, pulling it back beside him and pulling it in front of him as he rushes out into the woods once more. Another pop of embers, and you see Ritora standing, watching these men arrive on horseback, and Delawin hands them a small vial. You see the cloth at his palm kind of resting, the vial sat on top. You watch as he furls the cloth around it and cinches a piece of leather and hands it to this man. You all hear as Delawin looks up. Take it and deliver it. I promise that she will arrive safely. She must find Arthur, naturally. Otherwise she will know. But she must believe, right now, that she must run. And you watch the man take this vial of plain-looking soil into his hand, pocket it, and scurry away. 3 men on horseback suddenly disappear through the trunks of trees, and you see Ritora step out, a confused look on her face. You hear this strange, forlorn disappointment in Ritora's voice of, how could you do this? How could you do this? And you see Delawin, still not having turned back to her, look up once more at the line of the trees, and the birds chirp, and the owl hoots, and you hear the twigs break at the feet of a rabbit nearby. How could I do any of this? And you watch as he turns, and his hand quickly strikes Ritora in the cheek, and you watch as Ritora falls to the ground, unconscious. He quickly kneels down next to her and places a hand on her shoulder. And he shakes slightly and swallows, almost gulping for breath. You will do what I could not, what I was not strong enough to do. I am sorry, but thank you. And you see these embers pop. You see this frail piece of paper almost obscuring your vision as these charred pieces of ash begin to fall and descend in front of you. And suddenly your image changes. Looking up at these tall, massive redwood trees. A beautiful forest, unlike one most of you have seen. And you see this small teenage girl, maybe only about 13 or 14 years old. Oh, would you like to describe your mother?
Sure thing. So she has a light complexion. Her eye color is a deep green, and she has light brown hair, short.
Thank you. You see this girl standing in front of this forest, looking up at it, tearful, wrapped tightly in a large green cloak matching her eye color, kind of cinched around the neck. You can see that in her hands, as she looks up at the great redwoods, this small, empty book, filled as she skims through it with a beautiful tan-colored page, page after page, empty. She kind of closes it slowly and rubs her hand along the front. I will fill this with all that I learn, all the things that this world will teach me. I will fill this book. And I will do what needs to be done for my people. I will bring this book home, and I will share our world with the world outside of it, so that others may see how magical things still are here. and you see these people standing in the distance. A large crowd blending together at this baseline of these tree trunks at these great redwoods. And she looks kind of longingly at many of these people and simply raises her hand. I am to be your voice, and I will do you honor. Farewell. I love you all greatly. And you watch this young teenage girl kind of take a heavy breath and settle her shoulders to adventure them and kind of whisper to herself, almost in encouragement, and turn and begin to walk westward towards the setting sun. A pop of embers and a flash of light, and you see your mother, a few years older, standing in the great city of Ulm, looking up gleefully at the library. You see her approach, and the great grand gates open for her. She smiles as she waves towards the guards, who welcome her and bow, extending their hands inward. She pulls out her small journal, and you can see that she turns about 10 pages in. As she flips through, you can see scrawlings of quick, hurried writing on the pages as she passes them by. She rushes inward, and a sudden pop and a flare, and you see your mother sitting before this great mahogany desk, cluttered with books, inkwells, quills. Multiple books open at one time, and you can see that she is picking up different quills at a time and writing in each book simultaneously. You hear this familiar voice of your father call out to her. Good morning again, Anna. I hope the library is treating you well this day. And you see your mother look up, and in the frame of the double-wide library doors where your mother's study occupies a small corner, you see the figure of your father, a young man in his mid-20s, staring at her with a small mug in his hand. I figured we could have some tea again, if you don't mind, Anna. I quite enjoy spending my mornings with you. And you see Anna just kind of look up briefly from her two journals and just smile at him and nod. You watch as your father begins to walk towards him gracefully and slowly. This happiness overwhelming him. Another crack and ember. And you hear your mother's exasperated breaths as you see this stark, tan room, your mother on a bed, sheets over her stomach and legs, your father standing next to a cleric, confusedly looking at this man, asking why, what has happened, what is wrong, why this way. You hear Anna give out another exasperated breath. And you hear this faint word, awaken, whisper out from her, but not in her voice. A different, sweet, dulcet, female tone. And you hear the cries of this small boy as he is born. And this cleric rises from the sheets, pulling this newborn Felix with slightly different appearance than a normal boy. Not the Felix we see now. A Felix with a little tenderness to his ears. in their shape and adornment. You see this man turn to Michael as he stands, his eyes still affixed at Anna. And this cleric taps your father on his shoulder as your father watches your mother breathe heavily, her breath slowing. The cleric places this newborn into Michael's arms, and he looks down at you for a moment. And that look of joy suddenly overwhelms him. And he hears Anna sigh. And he turns towards her, and she weakly outstretches a hand towards you. And Michael rushes over the step, placing Felix into Anna's arms, and she cradles him up against her neck, resting softly against the top of his forehead. I will always be with you. And you watch as Anna's arms begin to go limp, and you slide down her chest. And Michael reaches forward, catching Felix as he slides down, Anna's arm going limp at her side. Another crack of embers. We hear the sudden washing of waves, the shorelines of Howtown now, the sands at the coastline, a small, wet log, maybe 20 feet off the sand, right at the line as it begins to ascend and meet grass once more. On this log sits a teenage Mr. Ethian, blissfully looking out at the ocean waters. No bone trinkets, just a young elven man with a fishing rod in his hands. Sat next to him is this tanned, elderly woman with long, straight white hair, conical tattoos of oceanic creatures, and waves along her arms and shoulders as she has just this soft, clean, cottony-looking tank top on. You see the wrinkles in her skin, but the tattoos stay clean. She looks out at the ocean in front of you and just kind of gestures at the fishing pole in your hand. You watch as Ether just kind of looks at it and then looks up at her. You hear a younger Ether say, "I'm not the best at learning new things." And she just looks over at him and just kind of sighs and smiles out at the waves. You can see the sea foam kind of lapping up at the sands. I disagree, Ether. I think few men possess the heart that you do. Possess the willingness to look. And she just kind of pats you on the back. And sometimes it won't always be a fishing line you cast out. But I'm sure you'll bring things back. And you watch as Ether just kind of stands up. This kind of strange reassurance. He steps out and you see this small bed of rocks like a landing stretching out from the coastline, maybe about 15 feet up the coast from where this lady is sat. And you watch Ether slowly walk over, reach the edge of this landing of rocks, and cast out his line. The sun hitting the beautiful bait and tackle as it plunges down into the water. And suddenly the waters change, growing dark, and this strange sense of rapidness takes out. You hear this crackle of thunder, this horrific roar, And we look up and we see this horrific overcast storm washing over Helltowno, the rapid height of the waves suddenly increasing. You see flashes of lightning and a small sailing skiff illuminated out on the horizon of the water for you. You watch as Ether takes a step into these waters, and suddenly this old hand grip at his shoulder. You cannot, Ether. Not all storms can be weathered. And I am sorry for that lesson. You watch as Ether just falls on his knees to the ground, his hands resting right at the edge of the water as the waves lap over his fingers, sea foam staining the back of his hands. You watch as he grips at the small pieces of seashell that are here, right under the lines. And he looks up and out again, and the sailing skiff is gone. Another flash of embers. And you see this woman standing here alone on this landing of rocks, looking out over the sea. She looks older, only a few years. But she stands vigilant, waiting, looking out at that same spot where that skiff wrecked, torn asunder by such a devastating storm. And you watch as she slowly leans down, sitting, her legs entering the sea. And you watch as she places her hands on the rocks here at the edge, looking out. I will find him for you. And you watch as she pushes herself into the water. You see her deftly slide gracefully in at a declination and surface a moment later, her head barely rising out, and you watch as she begins to swim slowly and methodically out, calling out, Veril, I will bring you home for him. She takes a few graceful movements in the water and stops, and we don't hear a storm, but we hear the sudden washing of spinning water, that sudden swift movement of a whirlpool in the distance. And this woman pauses, her head bobbing in the waves, as she looks out, and she sees that additional horizon that you should not see in the water, knowing the declination that dips down to the depths below. And she pauses and gasps, and this strange pale coloration overtakes her face. And she holds out her hand and points at this looming sail that looks as though the tips and height of it rise out from this whirlpool. And a flash of embers. And we turn to horrifying screams. The sounds of people yelling for help. The madness of heavy footsteps in a clutter as armor and blade meet. The sounds of war. The sounds of a slaughter. And we see Vorst sitting in the dirt, his back against a tree, clutching his shield in front of him, his long sword in his hand, kind of looking down at his own hands, at the hilt and pommel of his blade, and the interior of the strapping of his shield. He looks almost catatonic in a daze, shaking ever so slightly as screams continue to echo in the woods around him. And you hear Vorse mutter to himself, "Get up and help, get up and help, get up and help, get up and help." He does not move. Screams get louder, more and more, and you see Vorse shake. And then this hand glides towards his neck, but takes him by the chin and turns him upwards. And you see come into full view the familiar face of your good friend Ritora, looking down at you. Vorse, we have to get out of here right now. There's nothing left. There's nothing. And you feel this hand slide off of your chin and grab you by the collar and lift. And you feel the strength of your friend as he drags you up to your feet, keeping his face in front of you. Don't look, Vorse. Don't look. We have to go. We have to. You see this dazed look still on Vorse's face as this man takes him by the shoulders and turns him and begins to push Vorse, and your vision widens and you see this horrifying, monstrous creature, maybe 25 feet behind him, a 9-foot tall, grayish red, orc-like creature with protruding tusks from the bottom jaw, spikes crowning along the width of the skull, and a protruding curved black pair of horns, holding a man in its claw in front of it, up at the height of its jaw. You see these barbed spikes protruding from this creature's forearms. You see this strange, long, curled, reddish-gray tail with a brown spoke at the end of it like an arrowhead. And you watch as this creature just stares into this man's eyes, limp in this monster's clutch. And this creature just smiles and tilts its head back and forth like a dog confused. And then it opens its mouth, and you watch the saliva break from height of fang to bottom of fang. And pull this man's face into its mouth. And you watch as these tusks curl around up to the ear back and turn and twist and pull. And all you see is the height of this neck remaining as it turns its palm and drops this body limp to the ground. You watch as Ritora grabs Vorse by the arm and begins to run, pulling him 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet, with no idea of how fast you're running. You just know you're moving. Moving. Why am I moving? Where am I going? This strange, still catatonic look over Vorse's face, this blankness, this despondent terror, the absence of any hope. But you feel your legs move. Even in your dream, you feel your legs move. You can't move your legs, but you feel them rushing. The chill of the night air as it starts to set in. Ritora still pulling you by the hand. And suddenly, in front of you, you watch the edge of your hand suddenly fall as Rirda is gone. This strange sensation of movement horizontally in front of you as something collides with him. And he falls to the ground next to you. When our vision turns and looks over, and you see your friend on his back with a strange dark green orc over him with reddish hue along the back line of his neck, stretching up into the hairline as this thing just grips this cracked and splintered axe of poorly crafted iron and swings down towards your friend. But then his arm stops moving and suddenly twists and turns and falls to the side. And you see your blade rise up above your own head, blood splaying out, with no recognition of what you just did. The orc reels back in pain, and then suddenly screams, howling this strange, twisted sensation in your arm as you look down and realize your shaking arm is outstretched, your sword plunged through the back of this creature. As Rirda, beneath it, looks up at the blade as it pokes through, blood trickling down from the marks of this orc's chest as it stains your friend. You watch as Rirda reaches up and swipes this orc to the side, your sword clattering down as you let loose, and your shield falls to the side at your feet. And Rirda looks up at you. I'm sorry, friend, we must hurry. We must hurry. And this strange sensation of, I've only ever hunted. First kill. In a moment like this, already so overwhelming, why now? Why like this? You watch as Rirda reaches out and drags your sword through the dirt and holds it up to you. Your shaking hand reaches out once more, grabbing the long sword, dirt staining your hands as you move it through. And you see Rirda begin to turn. And 15 feet away are 7 more. Just like that one. And Rirda stops and holds his hand back out towards you, placing it shakingly against your chest. Run, Forrest. Run. And he pushes you southward. And you watch as Rirda begins to hurry north, the orcs splitting and dividing as you begin catatonically unaware of what you're doing, running, heavy feet, south as fast as you can. You hear them give chase. Your sword shakes in your hand and you realize it clamors and the noise for some reason is upsetting. And you sheathe it, shakingly. And you hear their footsteps gaining closer. And this animalistic urge drives through you. Just run faster. Run faster. You can run faster. And you watch his voice begins to shift and drop to all fours and begin to bound forward through the woods, faster than before. A crack of ember. And you see the vast openness of the Voralt, the snowy plains in front of you, the full moon high in the sky, a soft breeze, the tree line right behind you only a few feet. Silence for the first time in so long. Silence. And you pull your sword and you look at it. This black in the night stained blood still clinging to the blade, chilled and sealed to it by the cold. And you look down and you see the furs and the leather armor that you wear also stained in these strange ink-like splotch patterns with this black blood. A stark contrast to the snow at your feet. And for a moment you look at that sword, and that sword feels like home. And it feels too much like home. You sheathe it quietly and look up at that full moon in this silent image. And you let out this exasperated, emotional howl of relief, of fear, and of agony. And a flash of embers. And we see a great redwood tree, larger than the others we've seen before. A trunk wider than any tree any of you have ever seen. Spindly roots at the edge, wiring down into this beautiful, light, lime green like grass in soft patches on this strangely shaped island, surrounded by a silver blue lake. Peaceful, quiet, calm. The moment pauses, lingering just on this sweet, empty, serene spot. Wind once more picks up and lightly rustles through branches and leaves. And out flutters from the height of this tree, hundreds of feet up into the air, this beautiful black raven that swoops downwards, gliding, not in a predatory way, and lands right into a patch of this grass and looks around up at the trees. It begins to chirp quietly, softly, looks down at the grounds around it, taps its feet, almost methodically. It takes a few steps towards the surface of this lake, right at the edge of this island, this silvery, clear blue water. It steps and looks down, twists its head, almost as though it's appreciating its own reflection. But there is no reflection in this water. Just a raven staring at it, tilting its head innocently back and forth. The waters begin to... The sensation of when you ignite a flammable substance like gasoline and you see that rippling effect. You see that shimmering ripple kind of waft out from the area in which the raven's image should be, parting, drifting away. And this raven looks down, twisting and turning slowly, and suddenly it darts its beak into the water, dipping its head in, immersing itself up to about the chest. And you watch as this raven just suddenly flush, crest through the surface, water splashing up from it. And in its beak is this long, coiled, wiggling silver thread, still dripping down into the waters below, as though not all of the thread has crested the surface. The raven looks at the thread quite happily, gives a little dance, and it begins to turn and pull this thread. But as the thread moves and wiggles, you can see it suddenly grow taut, and the innocent raven, not knowing, pulls, and the thread severs at the surface of the water, a small piece of it descending down into the depths below, disappearing from this raven's sight. And you watch as this raven squawks, very lightly, chirping happily, as though it has done its duty. It flaps its wings once, twice, and begins to rise, swiftly ascending, this silver thread trailing behind it as it begins to float. A flash of embers. And you see this small, peaceful forest village. Small huts, simple constructions, some even etched into the sides of the trees themselves here in these great redwoods. And you see this woman holding this small boy in her hands as this raven flutters over, pauses in front, and lands on the hand on the back of this elderly looking woman. She looks human. Long, flowing, graceful white hair, a beautiful white gown, and this raven lands on the back of her hand. And unspeakingly she elevates and stretches her hand out over this newborn in this woman's arms, and places her hand on the belly of this babe, the raven overlooking down at the face of this little boy. And you watch as it opens its mouth and this silver thread falls right onto the tip of this boy's nose, resting softly against his lips. The baby doesn't cry. He simply gasps at this strange new sensation at the tip of his nose, this chill, this coldness. But it is for some reason warm and welcoming. And you see this baby open his mouth to gasp, and the silver thread sucks inside. And you watch this little baby give no sensation of discomfort. He smiles and begins to giggle quite happily. The woman with the raven begins to pull her hand back and softly wafts her hand, and the raven flutters up, releasing, looking at the raven. And she just curiously holds the raven's gaze, divided, and the raven just squawks, nods its head, and the woman smiles at the raven as it begins to flap its wings and ascend up over her head, and she looks into the eyes of the woman holding this babe. Yalum Lo, then, to be its name. And a flash of embers. And you hear the cacophony of footsteps of a marching band, a brigade of people. The soft, harmonious noise of metals unifying as they clash and clutter together with so many thousands here. And you see standing at the edge of this tree line is a young Eladrin man and woman, looking out curiously. Thousands of them. A sight I've never seen before in my life. All different people. How strange to find them here. This isn't their home. This is no one's home. Nothing belongs here. The woman looks at the young man. They cannot stay. We must tell them away. And he turns and looks at her. Darling, if they choose to stay, it is not our right to intervene. We must remain. Watchers. Vigilant. Not involved. And you see these two young Eladrin just lean on each other, their heads meeting. And you see this marching army in the distance as it approaches this state of rubble, massive, wide, heights of pillars and what look like fractured rooftops, angled, stretching out towards the sky, broken, smoke elevating from fires and ash and ember, that terrible smoky smell. They watch as this group stops amidst this rubble, amidst this ruin. And a young man steps forth. With messy, slightly long, shaggy, dark brown hair, clad in chain with a small hammer in his hand. It looks dirty and old, cracked and splintered. His shield, a small wooden buckler with no artisanal construction to it, as though simply hewn together in haste and desperation. You see this young man step forward. Handsome, charming. Into the rubble, pausing in front of these two great pillars that rise out, constructed of simple granite stone with a wide base. And he looks up at the height of these pillars, confusedly. And you see as he turns towards this beautiful, muscular, tanned woman with violet eyes and long red hair. I don't understand. Already sacked and abandoned. It makes no sense. And you see these Eladrin still here at the edge of the woods, looking out over. We must tell them away, darling. You watch as her hand just kind of grips at his shoulder, tensing slightly. My love, it is not our duty. It is no one's duty to rule. There can be no one. And you hear her voice just kind of grow with this strange, lingering sense of despair and disappointment. Not in him, at the presence of these strange intruders, people who don't belong up here. This part of the world is not meant for anyone else but us. And they turn together. In unison, their hands fall to their sides. And they clutch, intertwining their fingers, and begin to step back into the distance of the tree trunks, disappearing from sight. And suddenly they halt. And this incredible roar echoes out from the distance. And you hear the cracking of stone and the descending rocks and rubble, as though you hear a building break, and you know that stone has fallen and fallen and fallen endlessly. Silent. And I don't know why. A flash of embers. And suddenly you all find yourselves sleeping quite peacefully. And you may conclude your long rest.
Don't open my eyes. I want to rub my eyes.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
You're right, John.
Mm-hmm. Definitely need coffee. My throat is killing me now. Yeah.
You just made that noise too.
Mhm.
Which
Yeah. Gotta do it though. I know what's there.
Uh-huh.
Let's go find out what's there.
Wow. Wait, what's
Why are you
where?
all shaking?
Well, where? Which place?
Yeah, you guys all begin to stare awake.
Ritora wakes up with just tears
Mm-hmm.
in her eyes.
I'm gonna wake up violently after fighting Wembley.
All night, just
Mm-hmm.
You're punching, but your punches don't do anything. It's just,
Like slow.
yeah. It's like punching underwater.
I'm gonna shake Melithil awake since he's on my thighs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is he dead?
No.
Roll
I
for
was like,
it.
oh
No.
God.
Forgive me.
Frightened
I do
cat-
have
No,
to
yeah, that's okay.
No, I still have to do Nesgrim's. I had to scroll down on the page because there's so many pages.
I thought this was just Wembley.
No,
oh,
it's not over.
I thought we were gonna flash to
Fuck,
Wembley.
man.
For a second, I did feel a little bit left out, and I was like, "There's probably a reason. I'm not
No,
gonna worry about
it's just it's on the next page. So tired.
Drink your coffee.
Mm.
Do we want to take an
Sustenance.
intermission for a second, just to?
No,
All right.
we gotta do it.
All right.
Traumatized
After.
DJ.
Yeah, probably after.
After.
I will absolutely want to go cough outside for like 10 minutes. It'll be great.
Yeah. It's coffee
Cool.
weather.
So after the horrifying noise that I'm not gonna repeat, yeah, flash of embers, and the strange sensation once more pulls you to, for everyone else outside of good old Mr. Nesgrim, a very unfamiliar set of chapel doors. The opening, as you know, to the cloister of the Monastery of Acceptance. You see the three sisters, Anna, Tabitha, and Willow, standing at the door. They open it and begin once more, hurrying through the long halls, and our vision follows them as they wind through the halls, reaching the staircase, ascending hurriedly, whispering with strange, hushed sense of paranoia and fear. You can hear it in their voices, concerned, as though nothing is working. Nothing is changing, nothing is helping. What could be wrong? Why isn't he getting better? No other healer will come out this far. No other healer will traverse these woods. Nothing has worked. They ascend the stairs and they find themselves at this rosewood door. Beautiful and decorated. At the end of this long hall, Anna reaches out and twists the handle and opens the door, and inside you hear this soft, quiet groaning. And inside you see the infirmary bed with your father laying inside. Sheets pulled up to his neck, his arms outstretched. At his sides you can see the definition beneath the sheet where he lays. You watch as the three sisters cautiously, slowly approach, pausing at his side. You see the gaunt, pale face of Nesgrim's father, these deep, great blackish circles beneath his eyes that stretch out into the height of his eyelid, as though his eyes are sinking into his skull. His lips pale and pallid and dry, the definition in his face withered and gaunt, and filtering away, emaciated. You watch as Anna goes out to instinctively reach a hand with a cold, wet cloth towards your father's head. And Willow reaches out and stops her hand just before she makes contact. Don't touch him, child. You know you can't. It's not all right. You don't know what he has. We don't know if the boy has it either. And Anna just kind of looks back over. Stop calling him a boy. He's not a boy anymore. Fine. Nesgrim. Fine. It doesn't matter. No one here can help. No one around can help. We have to find someone who can. There is only one place left to reach. We must send letter to Oshuamp, to the cathedral. Only there is there hope for this man. A strange flash and crackling of embers and a soft pop. And your vision, our vision, concentrates on this small bit of parchment in the old withered hands of Sister Willow as she holds it loosely in her fingers, reading aloud. Leovold requests his blood to be sent. Ceremonial. Only then can they detect what's inside this man. Only then can we cleanse him, cleanse his blood. She watches Sister Anna steps forward with a small, like letter opener style dagger. Sorry, Adamus. I'm sorry. And she pulls the sheet down slightly, and you see this withered flesh adorning his shoulders at his collarbone. You can see these veins below the skin illuminated, not with brightness, but by color, as they are this dark black. against the stark contrast of his pale skin, almost like the vein of a shrimp, illuminating, obviously visible. You watch as she drags the line of this blade over his shoulder, and your father pays no mind, his catatonic open eyes staring up at the ceiling above him. And you watch as she drags sideways and holds his arm out over the edge of the bed, and holds a small, circular-based vial beneath. And you watch as this black, stained blood from your father, with little remaining hints of red, drip into this potion bottle. She pulls a scarf from her side and wipes away at the blood, and it stains your father's skin, smearing it. She looks almost hopeless and tired as she does. She drops the blood-stained scarf to the ground and corks the bottle and turns, stepping to the doorway and reaching out, handing the bottle. She pulls her hand back, and her blood-stained hand reaches up to her brow as she rubs her forehead. For Nesgrim. Already alone? Already seen as a monster? For no fault of his own. And you watch as her hand just kind of falls down the side of her face to her side, and you see this black blood trail down the side of her cheek, just kind of catch the end of her jawline, and this black drop drips down to the floor and splashes into the stone framework. And we look up, and you see Willow once more standing at a door frame, looking at a young man holding out a scroll, a twined up piece of parchment towards her, and Willow snatches it, gestures it and shakes it at him, and bows her head lightly, turns and unfurls this scroll and pulls it aside. Well, they can't take him now. It is almost winter, and no one would make it through in time. At least not the people who could do the ceremony for Adamus. They said if he dies, to entomb him, not to bury him. Well, we shall see. Hopefully in spring, Adamus, they will arrive and care for you in the way we have been unable. We will do our best to keep you. She closes the parchment. Here with us. She reties the twine and just kind of pulls it back and pulls her belt aside and places the parchment in between her hip and her belt. And you watch as this woman steps aside, Sister Willow, into the hallway, disappearing. Anna and Tabitha left here alone with Adamus, sighing softly, slow, labored breaths. And you hear the voice of Nesgrim in the hallway. I want to see my father. And you just hear the soft echo of Sister Willow's voice once more. Nesgrim, he's as good as dead. I'm sorry. Seeing him would only cause you more pain, and pain for you is the last thing any of us want here. You know that. Don't cry, Nesgrim. He'll be welcomed home. A flash of embers. And you see this dark, poorly lit hallway. It feels discreetly and cold, this strange chill. Poor ambient light adorning the archways above you, stone ceilings. Underground? Cold. Footsteps echo more distantly in such a vacant space. Narrow halls, maybe only 15 feet wide. Stone archways creeping in every 10 or so feet. You see Anna and Tabitha in their nightgowns. A small candle in Anna's hand, placed on top of a silver plate. And the two quietly tiptoe through these halls. Their footsteps gently against the stone surface of the floor. 15, 20 feet pass, and you begin to see these almost relief-like tombs carved into the walls, 2 by 2, one on top of the other, amidst these 15-foot-high ceilings, these walls. You see carved into the stone reliefs are these decorative visages of the individuals inside. They pass by series after series, descending further into this crypt, until they reach a singular area comprised of a small square space. The tunnel, a hallway, funnels inwards, concluding in a 10 by 10 square room. And at the back end of it is a small elevated platform, maybe 5 feet up into the air. Stone constructed, a dark gray granite, long, maybe 10 feet, and on top of it, a stone coffin. On the platform, a small plaque engraved with the name Adamus Christock. And as Anna and Tabitha take another step closer, the faint light of their candle flickers out. And Anna holds it aloft towards the tomb and sees that the lid is cracked open. And a crack of embers. And that is where you will wake up.
That changes a
That's
lot.
much worse.
Uh-huh.
That's
However, the way I awake is still the same. Wembley! Wembley! What the fuck, dude?
I don't know about you guys. But I would love an intermission.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
We'll be right
Everyone
back,
can
friends.
just stew on that for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll just
be
let
back.
that marinate.
Stew.
See you in a few, friends.
Welcome back, friends.
Hello.
So yeah, we're picking back up.
Yep. Yeah. You guys conclude your long rests, and you all slowly begin to return back to coherence and wakefulness. But you are all here. Sleeping Melithil still kind of, oh shit, that was weird. I ain't tripped with friends in a while.
These people were all
Asleep
really
on
messed up.
Aether's legs. Just drool all over your knees.
Am I able to like pull my legs
No.
out, like crunch up in a ball and
Yeah,
try
I mean,
You know when you wake up and the cat's asleep on you?
to? Yeah.
It takes you a minute, but you like very slowly, gracefully start to slide your leg out, and Melithil just like rests his head instead on the ground here of the tent. Ooh, chilly.
How is everyone?
Just tears.
Shaken.
No. What did you all experience last night? I had quite an adventure into some memories from all of your pasts.
I think it's safe to assume we've all seen the same thing.
Yes.
Just gonna look at Yalumla with tears in my eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and then pull my hood, hide my face, and I'll just look down.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite heavy.
Yeah. Scratching at my mind.
The most concerning was the final part of the dream. Though yours was fairly terrifying as well.
I only wish it was a dream.
I'm sorry.
We have all been through some level of horror and loss in our past.
Indeed.
I'm gonna pull out my longsword, my old longsword, not my new shiny one,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to hold it up to my face and like inspect the handle and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do I find anything caked into the metal?
Definitely find some dirt and a little bit of blood.
So is it safe to assume then that that was not so much a vision as it was a memory of things that actually happened?
Mine, at least, I saw things that I was not present for. But
Mine
what
as
I
well.
was accurate, was true.
Same for me.
Okay.
The coffin at the end of yours, of your father.
That is quite concerning.
Also the blood.
Yes, her touching herself with his blood was worrying. Would that spread whatever he had to her? If
How-
she couldn't touch just his skin, I'm sure the blood itself was contaminated, tainted.
How long after that did you leave?
A matter of months. Right, it was months.
After your father died?
Yeah,
It
because
was
I
only
just
a
have
couple weeks.
years.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was only a couple weeks.
Yeah, it was not long. Couple weeks. My concern is the dead do not rise for no reason.
Generally, yes.
What purpose? What purpose is he meant to fulfill? Why would he rise from the dead?
To seek out Your mother's body, perhaps?
She was burnt. She died years before my father and I burnt her.
You didn't get to see him on his final days?
You were told he was dead?
Yeah, no. They would not allow me to see him at first.
Perhaps he wants to see you.
He might be coming, Nesgrim, to find you.
That seems unlikely. Only in that he wouldn't know where I am.
They spoke of Oshuamp
They did.
in front of him.
The letter from Oshuamp requested he specifically be entombed,
Mm-hmm.
not buried.
Correct, yeah.
Perhaps they came for him?
Perhaps he was
The
bought.
city, you mean?
Perhaps.
I-
It seems that they knew something, at least.
Do you think he was taken to Oshuamp?
No way to know. Perhaps if we found ourselves at the cathedral, but I do not imagine that they would be forthright with that information, if it were such.
No, I'm sure they wouldn't.
While we're sitting here talking, I'm just gonna shuffle over to Felix and just lean my head on his shoulder.
I'm very sorry for your loss, Felix.
I'm just kind of like, with my head down, keep nodding.
Mm-hmm.
Millifil had mentioned that he heard a woman.
I'll nod.
So did she stay with you?
And I'll shrug.
From his Malithil,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call him,
Mm-hmm.
from his dream,
Mm-hmm.
was that Camilla?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In
If-
Felix's dream, we did hear like the cry of a baby only after the voice said the words, correct? Or did we not hear a cry at all?
You would have heard the cry.
Okay.
You would have heard the cry of the baby as it was born. You would have heard the soft, whimpers and things like that
Got
as the baby was placed into Michael's arms,
Okay.
and then from Michael's arms into Anna's arms,
And then she said,
and then she
Got
said,
it.
"I will always be with you."
got it. Okay.
If that was who we suspect in Elithil's vision, would that make the man with her Ostador?
That would be my guess.
Probably.
And they were approaching
Did he
ruins.
look like the statue at all?
He looked like the statue that you've seen in the West District with the
Mhm.
shield and the weapon.
Mhm.
Yes.
The ruins he was approaching, he said it had already been.
It seems that it was as we've been told.
That would be the city of Oshuamp.
I would imagine so.
I was under the impression that Oshuamp was taken, not risen. But it seems it had already fallen by the time they got there.
Yes.
So they. The question then is, why that city? Why? There's other rubble around, I'm sure. Other forgotten places. Why choose Oshuamp?
Perhaps something to do with that terrifying roar?
Perhaps.
Something in the rubble, perhaps? Beneath?
Were they resurrecting it? Or summoning it? Or calling to it?
Whatever was there?
It was entombed?
Does not seem that it has influenced any of the stories that we have heard.
No, you don't often hear of the roar at the end.
Curious as to what the raven and the thread was dragging from the waters in yours, Yalumlo. The snapping of the thread.
Would imagine it is Kubalo? Fractured decorum?
Perhaps dragging a soul from that lake to put in you. There was no reflection in those waters.
I've not seen the process, but that would make sense.
Ether, is it possible that raven and your raven are the same?
It is possible. Clearly, Malo is not an ordinary raven. And Adrian did speak of the Raven's Harbor.
Unless all ravens have the same purpose or same...
Maybe not all ravens, but perhaps some ravens that serve some higher purpose. Something greater than normal ravens that are just birds.
When did you find Malo again?
A year ago. On the 1st of Elseth.
And what does Elsith mean?
We've been told that
You know that Elsith is chosen.
Okay.
She is nicknamed the Chosen.
chosen.
Hmm?
You could say Malo chose Yalumlo.
Did it look like the same raven?
Very similar.
Enough to distinct, like,
Enough to distinguish. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if
Mm-hmm. 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 Brother.
my
down.
brain is huge.
what?
I've heard. Bam!
I got two
Same
right. My brain is
bird.
huge.
He
What
said
if-
raven, and then he said raven again. Maybe it's the same raven.
Throw
Same
enough
raven.
shit at the wall, eventually it'll start to stick.
How many times have I said that?
It keeps throwing.
That's right. I don't know what to do with that information.
Worked real hard to get it.
However,
Thanks, buddy.
The
My brain is huge, but I don't know what it means.
is anyone able to speak with animals?
Probably the one that can become animals.
No,
Oh, right. That is Luna.
Luna can do that. I can befriend them.
Have we asked Luna if she's spoken to Malo?
Nope.
We're a little far from the tavern right now in Esgrim.
Well, yes, of course. It'd be quite hard to speak with her now, but when we get back, perhaps it's best to have Luna translate for us.
Assuming Malo chooses to reappear. She's not under my control. She
Yes.
comes and goes as she pleases.
Okay.
But yes, she could also speak to the owl further.
Yes, was that your owl?
That was Juniper. That was Delawin. He spoke to my parents quite loudly about something.
It seemed to be about letting you leave.
I've never seen him angry before.
It did seem he wanted you to seek out Arthur. Arthur has been very helpful to us.
Arthur did say that he had her scent.
Correct.
This seems to confirm as much.
It's still hard to believe.
And, I know Delawin may have done some not so great things, but Arthur has been very helpful. He did say that he wanted to give the impression that you needed to run. Perhaps Delawin's more of an ally than an enemy?
Delawin has been an ally to me much longer than he's been an enemy to me.
Perhaps he was never an enemy to you.
That's what it seems.
He wanted to appear as if he was to get you to run here.
I just don't understand why he didn't just tell me.
Perhaps you had to choose.
You would not have left.
Perhaps you needed to not know the reason.
Your home was too important to you. You would not have left it.
Arthur called for you because of the poem. Things that were happening, things that were to come.
I suppose a month ago the call of a poem would have seemed silly compared to the work I was doing.
Perhaps.
Why would I leave my home that I was working so hard to protect for some words of a prophet?
Perhaps you were in training. Delawin was your teacher. Perhaps he was teaching you what you needed to know before you came to Oshuamp.
When we've finished cleansing that from you, perhaps you'll be able to ask him yourself someday.
I hope so. I feel it doesn't feel right how I left now. I know it was his design, but
I get the feeling it may have been Arthur's. He must have gotten the name the architect from somewhere.
Arthur wouldn't know how to convince me I'd been betrayed.
I wouldn't be so sure. I don't believe you would get to his position in Oshuamp without some amount of intellect.
But he would likely not have known the relationship between the two of them in order to manipulate her to come here.
I believe that was Delawin's doing.
Well, we
He
do
knew he had to hurt me.
we do know that Arthur and Delawin have been quite close. Perhaps they were more than just friends, but co-workers in a way.
We've learned that Delawin taught in the inner sanctum.
We also know that Iris left the inner sanctum because she did not agree with their direction. We do know that, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Iris left the inner sanctum Was Grace in the inner sanctum?
You don't
we
know.
We don't know.
You know very little of Grace.
We know Faye also left the inner sanctum for similar reasons. We know Adrian left the inner sanctum for
His own reasons.
his own reasons.
Well, perhaps Delawin left the inner sanctum for the same reason as Iris.
I would very much like to speak with him again.
Well,
I don't intend to miss my opportunity to do that.
Still stands out to me that even the very mention of his name of only a few days ago was enough to cause you to have a fit.
I was wondering that as well.
Doesn't seem like somebody who helps you.
Someone with the intimate knowledge to turn someone that close to them against them would give that type of reaction.
I thought
He
I
knew
had-
what he needed to do to get her to go.
And perhaps whatever was within you the past few days was more trying to repel you away from Delawin. And perhaps it was reacting violently to his name, as it maybe felt threatened by him.
He has been actively fighting against this entity. That's what I've known for decades, and in a week, threw that knowledge to the wayside. I hope I haven't made a mistake.
Perhaps you needed to be here to continue the fight? This fight?
Whatever this is has roots not just in Oshuamp and its surrounding area. Perhaps if I can find answers here, I can take them home and help the Avith Woods as well.
Perhaps you just needed to follow the roots to their source? Instead of trimming the ends?
Might be the only way.
20 years of hard work. Only trimming them.
The vision we had
Mm-hmm.
of the thing flaying flesh, did we all see that, or was that one person? I can't remember.
Of the amalgamation flaying the flesh?
Yeah.
I believe that was given as a description by
Yeah, it was
Madeline, correct?
It was in. Was it in Corin's notes?
Corin talked about it, but I believe that you were described it.
Specifically by.
And Arthur also
yeah, I was gonna
talked
say
about it
Arthur.
just recently
Mhm.
because he was present for it.
Yep.
So, I mean, you guys didn't see it occur. It has been detailed to
Mhm.
you.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the roots all trace back to the roots within the mines,
Probably.
and perhaps it's calling people to it in an effort to do what it did to the dwarves.
Which way are the mines?
From where you are currently in the Fillwood, primarily north, slightly east.
So we've been moving not really away from them, just kind of
You've been moving slightly towards them because
Slightly
if
towards them.
Oshuamp is here and the mines are here, you guys have gone here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're still
Yeah.
going more northward, but the rest of your travel is going to take you in this area and then primarily east. So after this expedition, you will not be really traversing far north, and it is very far north,
Yeah.
like 150 plus miles north.
Would I be able to tell where where this entity that has its hold on me has been calling me towards? Would I?
No, I will tell you that it has been indicated to you its location being northwest of the woods of Nerenter.
Right.
Based on the old map from Iris, the area known as Sabrak, meaning empty.
Mm-hmm. And Camilla gave me some of that information
Correct.
as well, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I would definitively know at this point that I'm moving away from.
Up here, you're going that way.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
We will likely have to go there to the mines after we cleanse you of this.
Well, the mines are cut off until springtime, are they not?
We have time.
One thing at a time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's much to accomplish.
A rather large task.
And as for the mines, it's not so much that they've been dictated as cut off, it's just that you don't want to make that journey in this weather.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people go at the onset of spring.
I mean, similar to how we wouldn't want to make the journey outside of
Correct.
the... Not that you won't survive it, but the chances aren't great.
Correct.
Ritora, is that mark still present?
Looks the same.
Mhm.
Does not look any different to you.
Then what was it we cleansed from you yesterday?
I think that...
Suppressed, perhaps.
I
Not
think
cleansed.
And we drove it back.
that we've been moving away from it,
Okay.
from its... At least where Camilla has told me it resides. And as we've gotten farther from it, I have felt a bit more at ease using my skills. I have to believe that it was not fond of that notion.
And attempted to take hold of you
Mhm.
by force.
Do you feel it getting weaker as you get further away?
Can I make any distinction in that regard?
I mean, I would say that in the times that you've passed inside of the Fellwood, day by day, it's felt a little bit more distant, as though you have not felt that same continuous psychological pull at your mind.
Mhm. It's been still present, but less so. A bit less of a drag on my mind.
That is a bit worrying. As we approach back to the city.
It may once again take hold.
Right. May not only take hold, but perhaps gotten stronger. Not
More desperate.
right.
Well, we have that potion.
What does that potion do?
It's a drought of sleeping.
Okay.
Probably should have been used last night, but there was some conflicting signals being given.
Yeah.
I asked Arthur for it for moments like that.
How much of that would you require for it to... Would it take the whole bottle?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were told one dose.
It's a one-time use.
And I imagine we'll be glad to have it then. An option?
if possible, I think we should maybe save that for our journey back.
I don't think we get to choose when we use it.
If we keep moving away from the source, perhaps if it comes again, it will be weaker.
We'll be able to drive it back easier this time, be more prepared now that we know what to expect, more or less.
We survived the last.
I'm sure we'll survive the next. Well, I'm sure you all will survive the next.
It's very funny. She would not forgive us if we let you die.
I wouldn't not let him die, but
Send him on.
knocked down maybe. That
You
could
don't
be
have to outrun the owlbear. You just have to outrun Nesgrim.
correct. You are very heavy carrying many of my things, thank you. Vorst
There's
is,
like, I don't want to lose my pack mule.
Vorst is carrying the rest, and Vorst is much faster than you, as we saw.
Ether,
Yes.
the woman that we saw in your vision. Who was she?
A shaman from my village, the one who taught me what I know about speaking to those who have passed on. One who taught me to grieve appropriately and to help those who cannot help themselves.
What happened to her?
It appears she swam out into the ocean and perhaps raised my uncle's ship from the depths through some sort of whirlpool. I am uncertain if she survived that.
How did your uncle's ship sink?
The storm,
Okay.
in the vision that you saw, with me by the edge of the water.
Her tattoos,
Hmm.
did they ever seem to age?
I mean, it's mostly just the
Yeah.
fact that they were good quality.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Like, they
gotcha.
didn't really fade. Mm-hmm.
She went to a professional.
Yeah.
Correct.
She didn't get it
Haltano
done
is...
in someone's
Yeah,
basement.
Haltano is known for it, so yes.
There was a guy there, Glenn, really good.
Mhm.
Really good. Yeah.
Definitely not stick and poke.
He did a really good Medusa hit.
Felix,
Just slightly turn towards you.
do you happen to have any trinkets that might have belonged to your mother?
Shake my head no.
You hear a woman. He heard a woman's voice within you. Your mother said she will always be with you. Perhaps there is still a piece of her with you.
Iris said the same thing.
Ether, I think I know what you're pursuing. Would it work with a piece of Felix?
I'm not going to cut a piece of him off or kill him to speak. I could try to perform my ritual that does not involve ripping his skull from his head, if that is what you are implying, but I have only ever done it with someone who has passed on, not with one that is alive. But if his mother is in fact protecting him in some way, it is possible that I could speak to her.
Is that something you would like?
If others can hear her voice, perhaps now that you know, you could speak to her yourself. If that would be more comfortable.
Just nod. And I will telepathically communicate with myself. Hello.
Sure can try.
Brain to my brain!
Yeah, from my brain to my brain.
His eyes roll back into his head.
I'll say hello.
You say hello. I mean,
Do I hear it like echo?
you hear it in your mind.
just
I'm going to
straight
say that the concept of telepathically connecting to your own mind is realistically not feasible.
So it just sounds like I'm thinking.
You're just
out loud.
thinking out loud. Yeah. You say hello in your mind. I'm going to tell you that you do not hear anything returned.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say into Ether's mind. It didn't work.
I'll respond out loud. Do you want me to try?
I'll nod.
Lay down on the ground.
I'm just gonna start to draw my longsword. I'm only kidding.
It's a lot like that time that Nesgrim cried.
Time up.
You said that when Felix was born, he looked relatively normal.
Correct.
Not green.
Correct.
Not fishy.
When did you
A
become
little
good?
amphibious, a little bit of a green hue. Mostly normal.
He grew into
And
it.
his parents were human.
Yeah.
Only a little fishy.
Yeah.
A little fishy.
Yeah, only very slightly.
Now you're big fish.
They're only very slightly human.
No. They were very human.
Oh,
He was only slightly fishy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll lie down on the ground.
Y'all,
Lid's still on.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out and grab your hand.
I mean, I'll put my fingers over his eyes and try. He's not dead, but I'll poke him in the eyes.
Cool. You lay your hand over your good friend Felix's eyes and you close your eyes and you think, let me see your dead mom. Let me see your dead mom. Nothing happens.
Okay.
And flashes of Diggle.
Help! Baby, they're on the diggle!
Felix just sits up.
they're on to me.
Yeah.
I know everything.
No flashes, no nothing.
I could kill you temporarily.
I will
I'm not going
I will-
no.
I will switch my psychic focus
Uh-huh.
to psychic assault,
Mm-hmm.
and I will nudge you for 3 damage
Mm-hmm.
as you say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you feel this wincing in your mind. Definitely a little piercing agony.
I'll back off. Sorry,
I'll
Felix.
remove my hood.
Mm-hmm.
Many tears down my face.
Mm-hmm.
Simply wanted to try to help you.
Just gritting my teeth, shaking my head
Mhm.
at you.
Felix,
How old is Felix?
30.
Correct.
perhaps if she is still speaking, then in a way she is not actually gone. Not truly dead.
I'll nod. I guess.
It seems that she was from the same place as I. From the Rava Wood.
The trees did look similar.
Indeed. The only ones that I have seen like that in my time. Perhaps if she was of my people, perhaps now that you are aware that she is there, maybe she will speak to you more directly. You just have to wait.
It sounds like she's been trying.
Are you able to communicate with your Ikorum?
Normally. Not since the accident. Think perhaps he is sleeping. At least that is what has been suggested to me.
There is one more thing I can try.
You're not going to kill him?
No.
Close your eyes and stay still.
I'm gonna pull out my helm of telepathy and put it on and cast Detect Thoughts and attempt to detect the presence of thinking creatures that I cannot see.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
That seems like a bad idea.
I'm going to tell you outright that you do not detect a thinking creature.
Okay.
No thinking creatures at
Thinking
all?
creatures in here.
Oh, no.
None of them.
Keyword
How it
being
feels
creature.
up here in this DM seat sometimes.
We're all still half baked.
Felix.
Wembley.
Fish
Yeah.
Felix.
For the sake of the podcast and for the, stream, this is all, we're all speaking at normal speed, but this is all going much slower than...
Oh my
Felix.
god.
Lie down on the ground.
I could just kill you.
I want to talk to you, dead mom.
Just a little bit.
But if we all talk that slow, it's like we're talking a bit.
But yeah, no, you just detect the minds of the 6 of you, Melithel, and outside Melicy, because it does have a distance of 30-ish feet, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
That's it.
Is Melithil still asleep?
Yep. He's just snoring away, just drooling on the dirt. Just, oh, yeah.
I'll take my helmet off.
Mm-hmm.
It did not work either. I'm sorry. You could ask Melithil. Perhaps he was able to see her and understand her. Perhaps he could translate for you.
I'll, I guess he would be behind me since he's on the ground, so I'll turn, kind of slap him on the face.
We can also
Just
ask
gently.
him why they did not want Ostador and Camilla here.
I can answer that for you.
Oh.
It's against their nature. They didn't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
I am very unusual.
That's true.
It's certainly an unusual thing to say.
For Eladrin, it
Mhm.
is uncommon against our culture to seek active participation in the world.
But they did call themselves Watchers.
You tap Melithel on the cheek. Baby! Oh my god. Oh, dry mouth.
Morning.
Oh, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Where are we?
I'm gonna pass him my water spoon.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. Woo! That's the stuff. There you go.
I hope.
Feeling better. That was fucking weird.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Y'all seen some demons and stuff. I like it.
Well, yeah.
Your dad's a monster.
I don't know if I would go as far as
It's a bit insensitive.
I would.
Very
Real-
direct.
Real icky. Bleed like that? That's not normal.
He's unwell.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
Like your dad?
Not him specifically, but
Or,
someone.
or specifically.
Yeah, or specific, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh, he's right over there.
Which one?
Both.
Both?
Have you seen someone
Have
bleed?
I seen your dad and not your dad?
Have you seen someone bleed black blood?
Someone? No.
Something.
Yeah.
What have you seen bleed black blood?
Bad trees?
There are
This-
bad trees.
The sap is black.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Is that what I saw when I...
Uh-huh.
You've seen it as well.
Yeah. Bad trees.
So it can affect trees as well as people,
I thought I was going crazy.
and presumably animals then?
Corruption of life.
I don't think if you remember the blood on my sword, and on my clothes from that orc.
They were also black, yes.
That, I will indicate to you, is primarily because of the perspective of night.
Okay, just because it was like old.
Yes.
Have you seen his father, though, also?
That man in the bed?
Yeah.
No,
Okay. Good.
definitely not. That was weird.
It sure was. Indeed.
Real old.
My dad?
Yeah.
He seemed to be of normal age to me.
You're quite old, NotGreat.
Like old man age?
Yeah, not your age, of course.
I'm not old.
I've been calling him old man this whole time.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, you appear to be. No offense, sir.
I
but
do?
I'm just gonna kind of like grab a wrinkle on his face.
Ow!
Not saying anything.
I
Please
mean,
don't take that the wrong way,
I'm
but
not as young as I used to be.
and you're older than my father was.
Yeah.
Great.
Nesgrim.
It's a
How old was
relative
your
sort of
father?
thing.
It's a great question.
What, when he died? In his late 50s, early 60s.
I'm older than your father.
Not looking good for you, bud.
Nesgrim.
Or, sorry, mid to late 60s. Did I say? Yeah, mid to late 60s.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm sitting here like me and my father were the same age. Wait a minute. Hang
Daddy? No, your parents had you when they were very young.
on. Yeah, probably like early teens.
Correct.
Early teens.
He was
Like mid-teens, like 17.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Teen pregnancy.
Was slightly. It's a problem in Oshuamp.
Not in Oshuamp.
True, outside Oshuamp in the backcountry.
Nothing else to do.
Sacrifice today? You are from the southern part of the continent, right?
Yeah.
Everything is
Great.
southern part of the continent compared to where we are now.
I guess that's fair.
Well, he was only slightly older than I was. Perhaps 15, 16 years older.
What?
I was.
He was only slightly older than I was, so he wasn't abnormally old.
No, he was old. That's why he died.
No, he didn't die from old age.
He didn't?
No, he died from something that we've come to know as the rot.
Oh, the trees.
Yes.
That's right. You got a tree in you.
She has a tree in her?
Yeah.
You have a tree in you?
I love how you accuse her. You never told me
tell
us that
Slam
you
the
got a
desk.
tree in you.
A tree in you?
Friends, there's a conifer in our midst.
I don't know what you've been lying for.
I just kill him.
You gotta stop.
I just kill him right
Somebody stop this man.
But it's been a real birch.
Oh my god.
Oh, yes, it was worth it.
And I'm looking right at you.
Oh my god.
Real birch.
You need to leave.
I can smell you like a dog
We
would.
welcome you into our
DJ,
home.
I'm just harboring all of this hatred.
I can mute his microphone from here.
I still have to hear him.
I can't help with that.
I'm sorry, I'll stop now.
You got one more in you, I know it.
It's a bad tree.
Did you... Where are these bad trees?
The bad trees? Oh, they're up north.
Up north?
Yeah.
And then that one. The one outside you said was bad?
That one's just mean.
Oh,
There's a difference.
understood.
Bad tree, mean tree.
Okay.
Mean tree just ignores me. Bad tree tries to with its branches.
Yellow, that was what I saw.
Maybe the mean tree is dead?
Maybe.
What he's describing, these bad trees,
Perhaps.
Except it was not there.
it was not.
Perhaps you are able to somehow see the trees as they were slightly in the past. If this one is now dead, perhaps it was bad,
tree is-
as he said.
The tree's fine, right?
Yeah. Tree's totally fine.
Tree's
You just called it mean.
perfectly healthy.
You just
Okay.
said it didn't respond.
Perhaps a deceit? Like others that have borne that mark?
Like you're nurturing something. You remember that episode title?
The one that I used.
Fourth wall!
That one that I use as my name on Discord?
Uh-huh.
Your Jackbox name,
Right. You know, Blythe meaning joy, and the forest you were from, end of joy. Connections. Shit. I gotta go. Baby!
Is he actually turning to leave the tent?
No, he's not turning to leave the tent. He does definitively say that. Sans episode title.
What is it that makes the trees bad?
The earth?
Yeah, something in the dirt.
Perhaps the type of dirt.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not the type of dirt. There's something corrupting the dirt that is there.
The black earth.
Yeah, they're sick like your dad. Your dad probably was a tree too.
Well, he wasn't a tree, but...
Had a tree in him then.
Might have been a tree.
What do you mean had a tree in him?
Why didn't you tell us your father was a tree?
She is right, Nesgrim.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be more forthcoming about your past.
I was also not aware that my father was a tree.
I imagine it's related to the bloodberries.
Bloodberries.
Yes.
Oh,
Have you heard of them?
yeah, that's bad.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well,
You
they,
shouldn't eat those.
they can be good at times.
No, they're bad.
All the time?
I mean, they're bloodberries. Made of blood.
Correct.
It's not good.
What if...
And you know where they come from, yes?
Come from.
Yes.
Ground?
Bodies.
Well, that's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes sense. That's why I find them in the bones.
What bones?
What bones?
The bones and the marshes. Marsh bones.
Well, obviously, I mean,
Makes sense.
I got her.
Come on, guys.
you knew about here.
Where are these marshes?
North.
It wouldn't happen to be northeast of here.
Northeast.
That way, and I point towards the northeast.
No. You point straight north. That way.
Is there anything dangerous up there?
Hags.
That's where.
They live in the swamps.
In the what?
I'm sorry.
You want to run that by me again?
Baby, we gotta go! Swamp! There have to be swamps!
What are you doing in my swamp?
Oh, swamp.
Oh, God, he did it again!
Well,
That's the way Corin went. If we're planning on heading that way, perhaps we can find something to bring back to Luna.
do we want to seek out Corin?
That
Big
was,
man?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
that was the plan before bed.
Okay.
Bed
He's
man.
Still close?
Man bed.
Just matches him and back to conversation.
I have to guess
Thanks!
it hasn't made it that far. We're traveling as a party of 6. He's on his own with Maribel.
We also did call it quits quite early yesterday.
He can't imagine he would have been traveling late.
And he probably needs help.
He was stuck in the same storm we were.
Perhaps if we make a quick pace, we can catch up to him. However, we don't know what else is in the trees that we may be drawing toward us as well.
Hags.
In the trees.
I don't think the hags are in the trees.
forest.
Among the trees.
Among the trees?
Birds?
Yes, birds.
Should we be worried about the birds?
No, the birds are mostly nice. Nice birds.
Mostly.
Mostly. Some of them are real big.
God.
Well, now I'm
Like how big?
Are they
Like,
Like big birds.
I'm just gonna kind of like go like this.
Large birds.
no, bigger.
do they have feathers or not feathers?
They got feathers.
Okay.
Do they have fur as well?
No.
All
Are
bears
they-
don't fly.
Are they big and nice?
Size of the tent.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Are they what?
Big and nice? Or just big?
Just big. They're not usually always mean, but,
Would you say they're quite neutral?
I mean,
Mean but not bad.
yeah.
I'm sure they have
Hungry then.
Have-
Yeah.
hungries probably.
Hungry birds.
Predatory. The cold wing.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Cold wings. Sounds good.
Big flats.
Felix, you wanted to ask about.
I'll just nod and speak into, oh god, what's his name? Old man's mind.
Melithel.
Melithel.
Dear Yara!
Do you hear her?
Hear what? He says that out loud.
Can you hear her speaking, continuing in his mind?
Hear who?
Or is it just me?
I just hear you. You mean that lady?
Mm-hmm.
She was scared. That's why she was yelling.
About?
Felix, why would you trust that lady? Something like that.
Do you remember when you heard that?
When he was saying boo.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say boo-hoo. Yeah.
Who is Boo?
I'm Greg. When we were laying down. And you said boo. She was trying to warn you.
Well,
What lady?
There's only one lady in our midst.
That lady.
I'm still like over here comforting Felix. I'm just gonna scooch away.
She can sense the thing in her. Says it's bad.
That's true.
It's bad.
Bad tree.
She's not wrong.
Yeah.
I will continue to speak into his mind.
Hmm?
She should know I don't.
You don't what?
I'll just shake my head.
Okay. That's fine.
Do you... You, of course, know what seeds are.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible that the bad trees come from bad seeds,
Everything comes from a seed.
including the bad tree?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a bad seed?
No, I don't have bad seeds. I got good seeds. And good berries.
And I'll just kind of giggle at that.
I got real good seed, Felix.
Ritora, perhaps,
I'll just mutter childless.
Nothing fishy about that seed.
perhaps
Except
the
when he's a fish.
mark on your hand is the seed from which the bad tree grows.
I will tell you that I have described previously that there are thin, wiry-like roots stretching up your fingertips, and a long, large one now connecting down towards your wrist, going over.
That's
Fine.
It's totally
You
fine.
may be
Totally fine.
It's totally
We'll
fine.
just growing some roots.
Mm-hmm.
Just a seed.
You may be right, though I have to wonder if these seeds, these trees came first and desecrated the earth, or if the earth was required for them to grow.
Does the dirt make the tree, or does the tree make the dirt? Is that what you mean?
I'll just scratch my head at that. The dirt definitely nurtures the trees.
If it's related to Camilla in any sort of way, then perhaps it is that which defiles.
Perhaps that would be the tree.
So if the dirt were normal beforehand and then corrupted,
Is that not what you did with Delawin? Was created the Black Earth?
We did not create the Black Earth. I thought for a moment.
the opposite?
We fought against it. We pushed it back. I had reason to believe that perhaps my actions in the Avith Woods were not as well intended as I thought, but I seem to have been wrong once again. I was made to believe that for the sake of my journey to Oshuamp. My concern now is that if these seeds do in fact desecrate the earth that they are planted in, what does that mean for me?
Who planted that seed?
A man who is no longer alive?
A dead man?
Well, he was alive at the time.
A dying man?
Was he though?
Did he plant the seed?
Or did I?
Mm-hmm.
Black Earth.
Perhaps I've been the Black Earth all along.
Perhaps this is what it means to be the Black Earth.
Not by anything you have done, but something you are fated to be.
I'll tell you, he quite literally has the white bones. You also quite literally have the Black Earth.
Well, we do know Widow's Wail has been called White
Fine,
Bone.
sir.
We know Widow's Wail is nurtured within Black Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We know I am the White Bone. And Ritora is the...
Oh no!
Just the
Ritora is
What's going on there, Don? What'd you figure out, buddy?
Ritora is the Black Earth and the Nurturer.
Make you grow up big and strong.
If it's Widow's Wail and Camilla is the widow, then the monster is Ostador. Possibly. Maybe. Or something like that. I don't know.
Uh-oh. He's
Maybe.
losing confidence.
There's something there. I don't know if it's that.
I thought you were really feeling good
there's
there.
something there. I just didn't think about it until right now.
It's a good shake-up. I
There's
like
something
it.
there. Something's there with the wording, obviously, because it's always right there.
Go ahead, DJ. Let her fly.
Let him fly. Let her rip.
Do we have a whiteboard for him?
Yeah, can we do a Bill Nye cut?
John, can I get a whiteboard, please?
I have been asked not to cry.
Uh-huh.
Another way of describing...
No cry.
No cry.
Uh-huh.
No
Yeah,
cry.
no, go ahead.
Another way of describing crying is wailing.
Mm-hmm.
Widow's Wail.
Mm-hmm.
You play the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Your father was a widow? Widowed?
Your father's the fucking monster.
Your father's a widower.
If Camilla was the widow... Now, this is going to be a leap.
Yeah?
Perhaps Camilla is the Widow's Wail. And the roots we see are her white bones, similar to my wings. Again, I understand that is quite a stretch.
Maybe it's your father's very long fingers in the earth.
I think maybe it is time for you to eat some breakfast.
Oh, I'm still real fucking high, ain't you?
Yes!
Oh,
It was
shit.
Diggle, wasn't it?
He is always like this, actually.
Oh my god.
Camilla is not here.
Here as in alive?
She is alive, but she's
She's been around, Nesgrim. She's no longer around.
elsewhere.
What? What do you mean?
I do think Widow's Wail and me not crying have some relation.
You take over for yourself, dude.
Papa.
Just add an N in there and you've got Windows Whale, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the possibilities.
What happens when you delete System 32?
Perhaps
What's all this widow's wail?
have you seen any vines in the ground?
Like Wigglies?
Yes.
Wiggly.
Yeah,
Just
I've
like
seen Wigglies.
I've seen them
With
wiggly.
the white flowers on them.
Yeah. Tasty.
You've eaten them?
Yeah. Delicious.
They are in the ailment.
Maybe
You
that's
think
how
they
he's
were pro-
so old.
Yeah, I guess
What?
I never would have thought to eat them.
What? Maybe it has contributed to your exceptionally long life.
Your longevity.
I'm not old.
I squeeze a different wrinkly flap.
You got right.
Hey! What?
You are very old.
I mean, not very old.
Yeah.
Oh, guys.
There's no,
Totally missed
there's
that.
No
nothing
shame
wrong
in
with
that.
being old.
That's very impressive,
Yeah.
You're so close to death.
Felix.
Yeah.
I say that out loud to him.
Just smiling at the yeah. Someday I'll die.
Do we know how long he can live? Do you know how long you can live?
Do you know how long you can live?
Do you eat the
Not
flowers
that
still?
long. Nowhere near that long.
I mean,
Go.
Strike while the iron's hot. While I was crying, I saw a desecrated Ritora in her hand. Right? She had a ring on. It's been suggested that we were matched together in Adrian's circle. We've,
Just like looks like a random assignment of variables.
don't judge me. Sounds like the theory of relativity.
I just like that none of that is
equals
what you
don't
just
cry
said.
square.
continue. It has been suggested that you and Ritora are bound together from the magic circle in Adrian's basement.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
If the white bone, were to die, that would
Which you
make
did.
Ritora a widow.
And she would cry.
Widow's wail.
Wait.
Oh God, I've been crying.
I cried this whole time.
So if
So if the flowers are good to eat, then perhaps she is still savable. It's a very good point, Nesgrim.
What'd you mean about a magic circle?
Well, you see, we had met a man named Adrian.
The tree?
Mm-hmm.
You were in a circle?
That's where it was planted.
Planted. Okay. Well, that's a weird circle.
It was a very weird circle.
I'm gonna flip open my journal.
You gonna show him the circle?
Yeah,
That's bad. That's real bad.
I'm gonna nod.
You seem to know
You're trolling, not the circle.
something about this?
That's a bad symbol.
Like a bad tree.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a man named Adrian by any chance?
No.
I didn't think so.
That's I guess a nice name or something. I don't know him.
How about Delawin?
Have you seen...
Delawin? Huh. Baby? Why do I know that name? You just see the mouth just kind of like pop in through the tent opening. And she just chitters at him. Saw him in the trees. Okay. I don't know him.
It sounds like you.
I'm just kidding. I'm still a little, you know. First thing in the morning. I'm sorry. Where? In the swamp. Saw him in the swamp.
You have to stop saying swamp.
He was there getting some of the tasty flowers.
The white one.
Yeah.
In the swamp.
Yeah.
In the swamp?
Where?
How many different ways can we say the word swamp?
The...
In the Oshuamp? Oh, no.
The swamp where the hags are at.
Yeah.
How many hags are there?
I only seen one.
Just one.
Yeah. Real big. Spooky. She kind of looks like the flower. Get to this age.
Does she look like me at all?
I don't like
Does she look like what?
Does she look like me at all?
Like you?
Mm-hmm. With the
White hair?
white hair?
Yeah.
How long ago had you seen her?
Baby. Couple months.
Sister Desiel.
Indeed.
Did you like this woman? This
Nah,
All right. That's
not
good.
really talked to her. She was kind of running.
Mm-hmm. Running.
Yeah,
From?
From or to?
two. She was running into the swamp.
Damn it.
We need a t-shirt that just says spam.
I think we also need one that says me equals don't cry. That's just a good quarantine shirt.
It is.
Like,
She was all green,
Was she green when we saw her as in her true form?
like a pallid green. Yeah.
Okay.
How far away is this swamp?
Couple miles.
north.
I don't know, like
Fairly close then.
yeah, maybe a day. Depends on how fast you walk.
If we head out soon, we may be able to
You
get
got
there.
4 feet. Go a little faster.
That's helpful to know.
I go there as a bear
I've been that.
or a fox.
Never done that before.
You never been a fox?
No.
Usually the wife's the fox.
Because she's foxy.
Oh, that's messed up.
No,
I'm
you
just
shouldn't say
kidding.
that. About, you shouldn't say that about someone else's wife.
She is though. He's right. Baby.
She's a fox. She's foxy because she's a fox.
That's what you meant.
I don't think he understands.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Nothing.
Okay.
That circle's real bad though.
Yes, I agree.
Symbols.
Do you know what it means?
The thing
Yes.
and the circle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's bad. Means eternity.
Eternity?
Yeah, that's why it's endless. It's a circle. The thing's eating its own tail.
And what
Mhm.
is bad about this eternity in particular?
Means she's a tree forever.
Unless
Camilla's been stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out.
Get him a whiteboard.
An O is a circle.
Uh-huh.
Eternal swamp.
I will also tell you that the symbol for Ostador is absolutely an O.
Yeah, it is.
Circle.
You said it wrong. Oshwamp.
Oh, swamp. Swamp. Oh, swamp.
Schwamp.
Eternal swamp.
Eternal swamp.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. Something there.
this week on the City of Oshuamp.
I wonder,
Who did that circle?
Adrian.
Oh, the bad man?
Yes.
Where were you?
In Oshuamp, in the city.
Okay.
Well, possibly.
I
Did go
actually-
through a special door.
That's true.
Elsewhere.
It might have been elsewhere.
Elsewhere?
It was not Oshuamp.
Was there a fire anywhere near here recently?
Fire? You mean Smoky Town?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the trees? There was some smoke.
Oh no.
About 2 days ago?
2 days. Baby, what are days again?
Two sons.
Two sons ago?
Oh, sons. I don't got no sons.
Speaking of the sun,
What?
I don't suppose the sun shows up if you do the thing.
I do what thing?
The star thing.
I can't do no star thing.
Are you sure?
Oh my god, he has to be high to do it.
I don't think so.
The map?
My
Yeah.
map?
That.
I still
Oh,
have the map, right?
Where's my map? Yeah.
Pull it out.
Oh shit, my map! Huh. Oh, that's good. It's still all there. Thanks.
So about the fire, possibly?
What about it?
Was
How-
there one
How
near
long
here?
ago?
Baby, what are days again? Oh, you said sons.
Yes.
Couple of sons, yeah.
Oh goodness.
In the swamp?
Yeah. North.
North.
Thought it
Where's
was just a chimney, but real big.
Everything's north.
Smelled bad.
So that is where the circle was then.
Where the circle was.
What did it smell like?
Smoke. Ash.
Have you ever smelt a burning body before?
Oh my God, no. Why would I?
Would you like
What
to?
do you do?
terrible things happen in the woods? I wasn't sure if you saw.
No, I'll burn bodies. That's kind of weird.
Okay.
You gotta bury them.
Or entomb them.
Like that.
This way Mr. Pervert over here can look at the bones someday.
That's all I got.
Oh, my story thing.
Yes,
That's right.
I feel like this.
Oh, don't work during the day.
How does it normally work? You just...
Yeah, I kind of feel around. Find the star, poke it.
So it's a specific star.
I think so.
Can I see where his wife is? Is she a mouse?
Yeah, she's a mouse still right at the opening of the tent.
Okay. Can I elevate her with my mind? Bring her in.
You see this mouse start floating. Baby, you never done that!
Just gonna set her
All
down.
the possibilities. No hands, baby.
Quick
Swing.
question.
What?
When my mom died,
Died
similarly to my father?
Yeah.
You just wait till you die. I mean...
Well...
Your mother died much more rapidly.
But similar.
Yeah, similar appearance
Characteristics.
and everything. Yeah, absolutely. Father, it took 5 years for him to die. Took only a few days for your mom to die.
She wasn't cared for by the sisters, I presume? Or was she?
I'm not gonna make that
Yeah, I guess
assumption.
I mean, Nesgrim would know, I guess. That's...
Nesgrim would know your mama came back and it was real different.
What? Fucking what, John?
So back to the levitating mouse.
Yep, levitating mouse.
Sorry.
Gonna
Coming
bring her in front of me, kind of like
Uh-huh.
set her down
That was loud.
in front of my legs,
Mm-hmm.
and into her mind I'll say, "A little help."
She just kind of, you see a little mouse just gesture back at him. Like point her little mouse finger.
From you.
Little mouse thumbs up. Watch as she just concludes her wild shape. I'm very sorry. Sometimes it's just a joy to see lunacy at its finest. I think you all kind of get that
Oh,
sense
not.
sometimes.
Yes, very much so.
Absolutely. There is an exquisite sense of satisfaction in trying to follow the mind of someone that does not follow itself.
Something so innocent.
She did point at you while you weren't looking.
For like a good 5 minutes.
That one.
Weirdly innocent in a way.
Yes,
Blinking lights.
very wholesome. Very deserving of being cherished. Yes, our starry form is only activatable at night. We need to be illuminated. We need to bathe in the night sky, so this way it can adorn our form.
Like a reflection.
Yes, absolutely. So, yes.
But it does not work with the sun.
No, it does not.
Unfortunate.
Unfortunate, yes. What were the other things you needed help with? The smoke, the fire?
Yes.
Yes, about 2, maybe 3 days ago now. The last couple of nights for Melithil, he's been filling everything with smoke, no matter where we are, and it's been even trying on my own memory. Yes, about 2 days. The hag that lives in the swamp, we don't really interact with her. We do our best to avoid the areas in the swamp that she occupies.
Desiel?
There's
Sorry?
one that is still there. Not
Yes.
the one that he described.
Oh,
but
the green
another.
one? No, the green one would come out to visit.
Oh.
The
Yes.
other.
Yes.
What does that one look like?
Tall, pale, frayed white hair. Does not look... Doesn't look healthy. Yes, very frail, long, spindly arms.
Match the description of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of my mother?
No.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
of your mother.
That's what I was thinking.
Your
and I was-
mother has long,
Yeah.
spindly arms.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yes, Graham, come to mommy.
It's a hag.
It's the frost hag that's out here. The one that did the thing to Yalamla.
Oh, okay. Understood.
That one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
mom.
wasn't looking at you guys when you said that it resembled.
Yeah.
So I just looked up and everyone was nodding, and I was like, "Oh, are they thinking the same thing I am? That's not likely."
Yellow sugar
That's
bomb.
not likely. No, it's okay though.
I think I have encountered this one once.
Oh. Well, it's just, lucky you're alive.
Yes, I think that. In more ways than one,
Interesting.
with that interaction, actually.
Very interesting. What Melithel was saying earlier about the bad tree, the seeds. We know that many of the woods by our home are mired in such a way, corrupted and plague.
How far from here?
North,
North.
by the entrance to the mine.
So quite far north.
Yes.
Have you noticed any spread? You've been here quite a long time. You must have.
Yes. Over time.
Quickly?
No. Slow.
And do you remember when it started? Has it always been?
Oh, no. Just about 1,000 years ago now?
Around the time that they came?
The intruders?
Yes.
Yes. Around then.
We saw their arrival last night.
Very strange day.
There was quite an ominous sound from the rubble.
Yes.
Did that actually happen?
Yes. No idea what it was. Never heard a sound like that in all my years or all the years since.
Just the one.
Indeed.
Strange.
Yes. Terrifying.
The same time that fire occurred, did you hear a scream from one of the hags to the north?
Scream.
Was any of them missing an eye?
Missing an eye? Well, the pale one is always missing an eye. The one in the swamp to the north? Yes, that one is always missing one eye.
Did she scream?
Don't recall a scream. I recall a laugh. And we're going to end there.
Oh. Friends, thank you very much for watching tonight. That's a long fucking table, DJ.
Oh, there we go. There's the loop.
So there's the loop. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching tonight. I really appreciate it. If you're new here, make sure you follow so you can find us again. We stream D&D 3 times a week. Iron Wolf DM and Colt Mills, thank you very much for the follows. We really appreciate it. You can find out more about us on our website, NotGreatRPG.com. We have links to our podcast, to all of our YouTube videos where all of these episodes go. A few days after they're live, as well as some coupon codes for a bunch of different tabletop retailers that we are partnered with, and a bunch of other things, episode recaps and all that stuff if you need to catch up on the other campaigns, our schedule, all that good stuff. Yeah, so we'll see you next on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the Lost Kings of Adoris. Good night, everybody.
Bye, friends.
night.
Bye.
Good night.